As usual, these videos and writing serve more as a function of improving my own memory than of communicating anything I have to say to a broader audience. I think the audience is accidental. The fact that speaking and writing helps me remember things is probably more important. So this is a bit of a journal, as usual. I was just thinking about work, and I guess, as usual, probably trying to remember some things about it. It's not a tremendously stressful time at this point. It's actually kind of chill. And that doesn't mean that we're doing very well. It just means that I've managed to keep my stress levels down despite the large amount of things on my to-do list. So I do things, I try not to get stressed about them. So if you're efficient about stress management, you do things, you sleep. You wake up, you eat, you do things, you sleep. You wake up, you eat, you do things, you sleep. And you keep it going. And if you're very good at it, you should not break down or lose momentum or get excited, because if you get too excited, what's going to happen is that you're going to get depressed after you get excited. So you should just avoid all of those ups and downs if possible. That's generally what I try to do. I think I've been doing okay at it. Sometimes I fuck up. Having a lot to do across multiple domains. Sometimes I socialize with people who are our customers. People who develop software have always been a large part of our user base. And I listen to them talk about work, but I'm not as good as their work as they are. But somehow I feel that my life's a little bit more complicated because I manage mostly meatballs, people, humans. Of course, I believe people could be made from meat, or they could be machines. And there's a continuum of intelligence between what is legally a citizen and what is a synthetic creature, and what is just considered an animal but not human with rights. All the same thing to me. But generally, the meat nodes are a little bit more difficult to manage because we don't have as much resources to supervise them. So it's really good when they're really independent. Now, we have some really good staff, and they can pretty much set up and break down the entire operation for a 12-hour shift from start to end by themselves individually. Really good people. But that doesn't mean they are able to fix every problem that they encounter. And a lot of the time, they don't know if a problem that they encounter is a problem or if it's just something they should ignore. And I guess that's the challenge that I face in trying to get people organized. So while I do think I'm pretty laid back, I often have a lot of things moving around very fast in circles in my head. And it's just a matter of how often I want to take something off that queue of things going around in a circle and actually put it in the stack of things that I'm working on a minute-to-minute basis. So you got people. Each of these people, they have a sense of cognition, they have a sense of emotion. Each of those structures is intertwined, can be managed, must be modeled and managed in cohesion with those models and their colleagues. And all of those nodes also interact with the corporate body, which issues wages and manages regulatory compliance and so on and so forth. It's a lot to think about on a minute-to-minute basis. It's not so bad if you have a lot of time to think about it. Sometimes the accidents will throw you off. For example, telemetry. Neat telemetry. One of our drones reported back that, with a video, that there was some leaking water. So I went over to inspect it and I found that the steam tank, which is connected to another steam tank, there are two very close steam tanks in some of our machinery, something has leaked and there is a little bit of water coming out. There's corrosion. Two steam boilers are closely linked. One is affected and it's dripping things all over the place. Now this is not an urgent problem, but it is a problem nonetheless because it relates back to a maintenance issue we had about 6 months ago when we had a part replaced. And after we replaced the part, our temperature readings were very, very erratic. So we weren't sure at that time if the installation was imperfect or if it was just a new part being wacky. Of course, you can imagine which one it was. Anyway, the same area seems to be leaking, and that's somewhat troubling. And as I drove back from checking that out, so I live far away from the office, I was thinking about how much I should care about that uncertainty that comes from the fact that some of our core production machinery is slightly damaged and has received substandard service in the near past, recent past. And therefore, I'm not sure about whether we're going to get good service moving forward. Nevertheless, I decided not to care about it because guess what? There's a bunch of other stuff I do need to care about. It's the beginning of the month. That means that we have to pay everybody. Just that. And we need to do the accounts. And we need to pay people we haven't paid in a while because of the lockdown interrupting our cash flow somewhat. We need to report all these things to investors on a monthly basis. And we need to make sure that we don't break compliance limits in our bank account. We don't piss off our landlords. We don't piss off our suppliers. We don't piss off our staff. And, all that's going around as usual. In addition, I'm also working on software for the company. Software development's a little bit of a headful if you've ever done it before. There's lots of little things to consider. Right now I'm actually trying to figure out how to minimize the amount of work I do for JSON web token implementation that I need to interact with. Things like that will really, really clutter up your day or your year. So, as a matter of staying fit, I try to make sure that I keep all parts of my brain active, and this is today's speech exercise.